Thank you for joining us today. My name is Susan Evans, and I'm honored to welcome you to today's webinar with Kensington team of expert care professionals. I have worked with each of them and continue to be impressed with their solid knowledge in the caregiving space and their relationships with their support groups and heartfelt advice. Thank you, Kensington, for supporting these powerful educational events for our aging community. I was introduced to Kensington in 2015. Our family made a difficult decision to move my father to Kensington in Northern California. He was living with Alzheimer's disease, and it was greatly impacting my mother's health, and I did not want to lose both my parents to this dreadful disease. My life pivoted and did a 180 from being a recent empty nester to dedicating my efforts to education and connecting the Alzheimer's community. Kensington focuses on relationship-based care built on the foundation of their promise to love and care for your family as they do their own. It is programs such as the one you are attending now that are so important for those of us walking through a caregiver journey to hear from expert professionals on keeping us current with the latest advances in care, management, and treatment of conditions that affect seniors and families. A copy of today's webinar will be delivered to your inbox with links to connect you to these wonderful individuals. Please share the webinar with friends and family. At the end of the program, we will have a conversation with questions submitted at registration and open up to a live Q&A. Please join me in welcoming Tami, Melissa, Lisa, and Monica. I think I lost my Zoom.
You're good, Susan. We have you.
Oh, you can. I can't. Okay. I can't see anything, but let's go ahead and start with Tami. Can you share a few words about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. My name is Tami Anastasia. I am a dementia educator and also the author of Essential Strategies for the Dementia Caregiver, Learning to Pace Yourself. I have a private practice and I work with caregivers, professional and family caregivers, and provide counseling, emotional support, dementia guidance, and care strategies on how to navigate the cognitive and behavioral changes. And I also do twice monthly caregiver support groups. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank you, Tami. I've known Tami for years. Thank you for all that you do. Love your book. Melissa Long, can you go next?
Hi, my name's Melissa Long. I'm the Director of Education and Support at Insight Memory Care Center. We're based in Northern Virginia, and this is our 40th year. We're excited to celebrate. We're the only adult day center within a 500-mile radius that's dementia specific. We have over 20 support groups that we provide each month. We do education across the panel, both hybrid, in-person, self-paced, and we reach people all over the world with our education, which is really exciting. But we are available to anyone that would like to reach out to us who isn't local. But if you're local, we also have a day center that we provide care Monday through Friday. Thank you.
And I just want to remind everybody, COVID was awful, but the one thing COVID did is deliver virtual support groups. And I think it's really important. I was talking to someone that is struggling. His wife has Alzheimer's. And I said, go on this webinar today, see who you connect with. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live. So these support services are available to everybody. So I just want everybody to know that that's available to you. And Monica Moore.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Monica Moore. I work at the UCLA Mary S. Easton Center for Alzheimer's Research and Care here in Los Angeles. We are a comprehensive care center that focuses on medical care, helping people get proper diagnosis of cognitive complaints. We also have a very strong research arm to our center, clinical trials, and then also we have the ever-present caregiver support groups. We currently have 9 virtual groups for all different relationships, as well as frontal temporal dementia, young onset dementia, and dementia with Lewy bodies. So happy to be able to be here and to be a partner with Kensington. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Monica. And Lisa.
Hello, everyone. It's always such a pleasure to be here. I own a company called Gently Guided. I'm a referral service for senior living options, and I'm an Alzheimer's and dementia placement specialist. I came into this work through, I was a leadership coach and transitioned about 13 years ago because my husband, Gary, started showing signs, very, very subtle signs of Alzheimer's at the age of 55. It took 7 years to get a diagnosis, and it was a 15-year journey. So I've always just wanted to make sure that those on this journey are never alone and that they know they have support. I also lead a support group for family caregivers of Alzheimer's and dementia. And I've been doing that for about 5.5 years. So excited to be on the panel today.
I was thinking about adding up all the experience you have, but I don't have time. So we're honored to have you today. And I'd like to just spend just a minute with each of you, or if each of you could share just a minute, like, why are we here today? Like, you guys do this day in and day out. You support people, you support all different types of people, all different walks of life. You support men, you support women. And so why are we here today talking about some of this, really the challenges of being a spousal, supporting your spouse, especially if you're supporting your wife? Anybody want to start with a thought on that?
Yeah, I think males do such a lovely job taking care of the wives, and a lot of them stay at home with their wives. And they feel like they can do it all. And I think my biggest goal is just to let them know that this is a team journey, and not to do it all alone, and know that we're here to help. And there's lots of people out there that can help, because it's not an easy journey to take, and there's going to be challenges. And we want you to have a quality experience. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and I chime in with Melissa too. It's that world of, when we think about the word caregiver, we often think, if you look at the statistics of what a caregiver is, it's a 54-year-old female caring for adult children, as well as, or caring for a parent while also caring for children. So, but the men, like, there are still so many men who are these caregivers. And sometimes I really believe that they are forgotten. Because we look at the general percentage of our population who are caregivers, and men make up a smaller percentage of that. And I really believe this is something that we very much wanted to be able to talk to people and have a conversation, and let all of you men who are there with us today to know that you are not the only man caring for your wife. You are not the only adult son caring for a parent. I have adult sons in some of my caregiver support groups. And again, they face different challenges as somebody who might be caring for their 80-year-old husband, a woman caring for her 80-year-old husband, and realizing that caregiving needs change because we're all different and we're all unique, but also knowing that you may not be in the majority, but you're far from alone. And there are so many people walking the same journey with you.
And I'll piggyback off of Monica and Melissa. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to give male caregivers a voice, and give them an opportunity to share with us what it's like to be in their shoes and to take care of a spouse or a partner. And we caregiver has, a lot of connotations to it, but this is a fabulous venue to give them a voice, put male caregiver on the map, and let you know we're not ignoring you, that you are just as valued and as important as the person you're taking care of. And I just thought it was a wonderful opportunity to give male caregivers, give the male a chance to speak about what it is like for them and what their needs are, which might be a little different. And then of course we have that whole role transition too, right? So I just thought it was a fabulous venue and opportunity to give men a voice.
Yeah, there is, I'll just kind of bring it in. There is no, this journey is hard for everybody. It's cruel, it's not fair. We all struggle with it as family caregivers. And I'm now a self-proclaimed recovering family caregiver, and I work on it every day because it did have an effect on my health. So I'm a big advocate for taking care of ourselves. And over the years, I've seen the dynamics that are so different with men just in their own way and struggling and trying to figure out how to be the provider. But I've also seen, lots of people kind of go down with the ship, and sometimes they're men, because you can't do it all. And I think it's hard to reach out for help. And so we're all here to support each other, and it does take a village.
I'm just going to add one more thing. And last I checked, the statistics are about 2/3 of everyone with Alzheimer's, they think it's hormonally based, but are women. So I think it's great that we're all here giving the men a voice. I love that. I love that saying, giving someone voice, because it's almost like you're just recognizing them and you're acknowledging them. But for the audience today, I've had the pleasure of meeting two very special men. And I'm going to let Tami introduce our first guest, and then I'm going to let Lisa introduce our second.
So I'd like to welcome Frank Cunningham. Frank, are you there? All right, this is Frank. Frank, thank you so much for joining us today. Frank is from one of my support groups. And Frank, do you want to say a few words about your situation, who you're caring for, and just share a little bit about your background?
I am taking care of my wife, Judy, who's had, she's going on about, she's pushing 3 years with her Alzheimer's. It's been a learning experience. It got started, I talked with Lisa, and she recommended your book. So I got a hold of your book and read it from cover to cover, and it said you had a support group. So I immediately got into your support group, and I've been in your support group for, it's been a long time. It seems like a long time at this point, but it's something I look forward to every other week. And it's been very, very helpful. And I've gained some new friends along the way. So that's
Where is your wife residing, Frank?
She resides in the same facility that I'm in. She's in the memory care downstairs. I am in the assisted living portion because I was deathly ill back 2 years ago now. And it just made sense for us to be together. We both have long-term care insurance, so it makes it convenient in a lot of ways.
Right.
I'm so glad that you got the help you needed when you were sick, because I think that is unfortunately something that happens a lot to caregivers. Yeah. Lisa, introduce our new friend Lionel, please.
Well, I would like to welcome Lionel Engelman, and Lionel is a member of our support group that we have. You've been attending for at least over 3 years now, and would you like to share a few words and introduce yourself?
Sure. My wife has had Alzheimer's for 7 years plus. My journey has been from taking care of her at home all the way putting her through into a 24/7 residence care, and a lot of steps along the way. So a little later, I'll talk a little bit more about my journey, where I am, and what I'm trying to do to create a life for myself.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I suspect this will be a bit emotional because I'm already emotional, but what goes into caring for someone, especially your spouse, is just really heartfelt and incredibly challenging. But Melissa, do you want to start with some questions? And then maybe Monica, you can chime into some questions as well, please.
Sure. So Frank, when your wife was first diagnosed, how did you advocate for her? How did you build a team to give her the care that she needed?
Well, it was interesting. It's an interesting journey there. We had a great neurologist who did a lot of the testing, and he dropped dead at his desk one day. So I had to find another neurologist. I went to a second neurologist, and he turned me off. So I blew him off and got a third neurologist. And the third neurologist got a great mind, but he didn't have much bedside manner. So when he came in and we got the final diagnosis, he came in, opened his folder, and looked at Judy and said, "Just as I suspected, Judy, you have Alzheimer's." And I could have choked the guy, It really made me angry. Worked our way through that, and got her in here and to memory care. And I'm very active in her care. I work half a day and spend at least 3 hours a day with her. So it's at the beginning, it was a little tough, but it's becoming a joy at this juncture.
So, and I want to commend you for something, Frank. You didn't like a neurologist and you switched, and that is so hard for some people to do. And I think that is such a great thing, because you need to be comfortable, because this is not a short journey, and you need to be able to have a relationship with that doctor. And when you're questioning things, you feel comfortable asking questions. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to just ask, and either Lionel or Frank, I guess my question to you really is, we all have like defined or unspoken roles in our relationships with other people. And how was, like, you both had to assume roles that your wife probably traditionally did in the house. How was that transition, and what was that part like for you? Because I think that's really one of the things lots of the people I talk to, like this one man, he's been in my group for years, and he talks, he's like, I still don't know how to cook. He's like, I just go and I just buy the Trader Joe's frozen meals, and I just load up my frozen things and I order out once a week. It's sort of like realizing, he's like, I don't know how to cook. I've never known how to cook. I don't want to try to learn how to cook. So like, that's how he adjusted. But how did you do that? And whether it's cooking or whatever roles, let's say, that your wife more or less took on, then how did you assume those? Lionel, you want to, can you share a little bit on that?
Yes, it's a deeper question that I had to deal with, which is I was raised not to ask for help, and I was raised to keep the problem within the family, not let it to go outside.
Mm.
So I had to start with one foot in cement. And the journey that I took started with a part of my defective character, which is doing a lot of research. I looked into the Alzheimer framework for over 2.5 years.
Mm.
And I was very fortunate to find professional help at each level. I found professional help for myself, for my wife, because that person said, Lionel, I can't help you both. You're going to have to go find someone yourself, which I did. And the important thing was I found people that had knowledge about Alzheimer's. My wife's counselor had 30 years. My counselor, Mother passed away of Alzheimer's. And so they helped me through the journey. And the journey for me was a lot of steps. I started out with Frank at having my wife at home and slowly progressed to asking for help at home with the caregivers. And I also then brought in a person that helped my wife with art and paint. And so, it continued on that way. And then I'll just go on just a little bit longer. I believe that you will know when the time is right to make a change in the way that you are caring for your wife. It will come from within. For me, it came because my wife, even though we had caregivers at home, would always seek me out. So I felt I had to leave the house and leave my part of my life at home to be able to do other things. That's triggered the next step, which was finding a counselor like Lisa to help me find the right place for my wife and where she would be happy. And I will report that she is happy. And the journey has been long. The other aspect is we don't know how long the journey is, right? And for me, who was used to be in control of everything, that created a lot of stress and trying to understand that I could not do that anymore. I had to ask for help. I had to listen. And the other thing that I'll add, and then I'll get off, which is I learned that I couldn't turn everything over in regards to my wife's care. I always had to be involved and understanding. And when the time was right, be an advocate for her of where she was living. Because I had to realize there were 60 other people living in the same environment. And it's impossible for these caregivers to do that, all of it. So that's where I am. And it went on a little long, but I wanted to get it out.
No, that's fine. And I think, Lionel, you bring up a good point just about the world of it's ever changing. It's ever evolving. You're these roles that you have assumed, for somebody who might be here today, maybe you're at the very beginning and you're starting to take over medical care, helping guide medical care, but then later you have to be the strong advocate. So you bring up that good point of the ever evolving role, as well as the very important part of outsourcing. Come on, you have to outsource. You have one person cannot do it all, and it's hard to get to that first ask. And I commend you very much for doing that. It's very important for your own health and for that of your wife.
So Frank and Lionel, and you both can answer this, but I'm kind of curious. What's that one thing you've learned so far in your journey you wish you would have known on day one?
Well,
That's a great question.
That is a great question. And, I grew up in an only child in an alcoholic home. So I grew up essentially codependent, and I tried to control the environment when I was a kid. And that's what I tried to do at the beginning. I was just very much in control, and Judy would talk about her parents, and, I'd say, well, they passed away 20 years ago. I didn't go with the flow. And I finally recognized, that I was being a control freak. And I said, you got to knock this crap off. So I made a switch, and now, and for the last several months have, said, just gone along with her, and she talks about her mother, talk about her mother. He talks about her mother coming over, say, yeah, she'll be here, that sort of thing. I'm just going along with things. And in the process of all of that, I'm finding joy because I'm not trying to control the situation, because I can't.
Mm.
And a part of, just to share, like I said, I work half a day and I'm with her 3 hours a day. And what I do is we take a nap together and hold hands while we nap. And that just brings me joy. So just going along has been a big deal for me, and letting go of the control. So
That's awesome.
Lionel, do you have something to add to that really far-reaching question, which we all want to know the answer?
Yes, day one. Day one, I wished that I trusted my kids more.
In what way?
Well, they helped me with the journey of making decisions. And they were very kind by saying, we'll be here to discuss whatever the issue is, but Dad, it's your choice.
Mm.
That's what I wish I had on day one.
Thank you for sharing that.
Lionel, what made it difficult to trust them from the beginning?
Because my whole life, I controlled the family. And so how did I change that role where I could listen and accept and realize how wonderful they are?
Lionel, I think you said something when we met before, all of us met before, and I believe what was either you or Frank, is you said it was really difficult to change my role. My role as a man in the house was to provide and protect. And you said it's really hard, but you got to leave the macho behind.
So do you both struggle, or did you struggle with the guilt?
The what?
The
What'd you
guilt.
say? The guilt?
Guilt.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, what
Unbelievable.
are the things that you struggled with the most from a guilt perspective?
I didn't know how to.
If you can
Take
talk
care
just
of
a
her.
little louder because they're not hearing you, that would be great.
Okay, I didn't know how to take care of her. I wasn't in control any longer. And that was really very difficult for me. I'm supposed to be the man of the house, taking care of everything. And I wasn't able to do that. So I was kind of lost for a while. And
Did you equate asking for help as a sign of weakness or failure?
no, I don't think so. But maybe subconsciously I wasn't reaching out for help. I'm an only child. My kids, this is my second marriage, so my kids aren't involved. So it's me and Judy and her sister. And she has another sister that's got dementia too. So, I've managed the best I can, but it's all about control with me. I've let go of the control. So
Yeah, for me, the guilt is living my life. Can I live my life in joy and happiness, knowing my wife is in the stage that she is? And I had to wrestle with that I probably still wrestle with that every day, but I know I have to make a decision for myself. And I know my wife would want me to make that decision.
And I agree with Lionel. I mean, you said it perfectly, Lionel. That's the same way I feel. You know, going forward and not feeling guilty.
And I know like there's, some of my support groups, the men who they talk about exactly that, Lionel, of how do I give myself permission to go out and play pickleball or to meet up with friends for lunch when my wife isn't able or needs care? Shouldn't I be with her, taking care of her? But then we always say too, we can't have two victims of this disease, because it's going to, your health, your well-being, your emotional and physical well-being will suffer if you take that role. But I have heard that a lot from men, I think more specifically than women, about the living my life. And also it's the world of like, well, what is my life? What do I want? Like, is this it? Like, am I a caregiver now? Like, I'm 75 years old and I'm a caregiver? When it's like, you still have the desire to do other stuff, and you have the desire to see friends, and the desire, and hopefully health-wise you're able to. So trying to, I think, really wrangle with those emotional feelings that exist and really permeate in some people's lives because of this role of responsibility. Again, you take care. I take care of her. But then you also, we always encourage people to remember, especially in your situations, your wives are in places where you are paying them to take care of her. And now it's your wife would want you to be able to go and enjoy your life and do your thing. It's not that you've forgotten about her and you've blown her off. You're still very committed. Just this world again of asking for help and outsourcing, but telling yourself that it's okay, and telling yourself that you are able to go and play pickleball and have lunch with some friends and maybe even go on vacation.
Saying that yes card instead of no all the time is so important.
And I'm struggling with that very thing right at the moment. I've planned a trip to Hawaii just to get away and relax, but the guilt of leaving is strong. It pulls on you. So that is a tough thing to do, but everybody says take care of yourself, and I got to learn how to do that.
Well, one of the early support groups that I was involved with, the person just lost her husband, but she says, I don't know who I am. I don't remember who I am. I don't know what I want to be and how I want to live my life. I've never forgotten that, and that was probably 6 years ago.
That is so true.
Yeah.
When my husband passed, I realized that my soapbox or my purpose had shifted drastically, and I really had to take the time to reinvent myself. And we're along the journey, we're all reinventing ourselves as we go, whether we like it or not. But we also, I was somewhat removed, my journey was so long, kind of removed myself from, a lot of things, almost 2 decades. And I love that you're both doing things for yourselves, which is so hard. I mean, in just to kind of back up, it's hard enough to just admit that you're a family caregiver. And that takes time to actually embody, like, oh my gosh, I am doing this. And this is a role that I have. I think a lot of people don't really take that role and realize and put that hat on and fully, and then things begin to shift. And I just want to talk about the joy or the moments that you are being with your loved one, your wives, because like Frank, you were saying, you can now be in the moment with her.
Mhm.
And there's a coaching term called dancing in the moment, just being so beautifully present with our our loved one in general, that's when the magic and the joy can be there, and we're letting go. And we are so, as a spouse, we're hungry for a level of intimacy that isn't there anymore. And that is the intimacy that we can now have. And it's a whole different layer than we've ever known before.
That's well said.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well said.
Really well said. Tami?
Both Frank and Lionel, did you ever identify yourselves as a caregiver?
Yes. Yes. My answer to that, yes, from the early stages, when, I mean, it started with me, it started with Judy saying, I'm leaving. I gotta go see mom and dad. And she'd run out of the house and run down the street with me chasing her. One time she said, I gotta go to the market at the corner. Mom and dad are waiting for me there. And I said, Mom and dad are there. She said, yes, they are. So, I said, okay, we'll get in the car and I'll take you down there. So we get to the store. I said, walked into the manager and she says, I'm waiting for my mom and dad. She said this to the clerk, could you call on the walkie-talkie for the store to see if mom and dad are here? So he did, and nothing happened. And I said, she said, okay, I guess they aren't here. Let's go home. Okay, baby, let's go home, So I played along with that and it worked out. I didn't fight it. I just went along with it and it worked out well. So
For me, I never really identified myself as a caregiver. It was something that I knew in my life I would always do for her. And so it was just a natural thing.
So let me ask, I want to piggyback off of something else Lisa said. So part of being in the moment is being in the moment in their reality. And that sometimes involves saying and doing things that we know in our world may not be true, but we're trying to provide comfort. And I get a lot of pushback in my private practice and in my support groups. I'm not going to lie to my loved one. I'm not going to deceive my loved one. How do you make that transition and jump into their world and realize that it's their world we're trying to meet versus keeping them in this world? How did you guys manage to make that transition so you can be present and respond in their world, respond in their present reality? How did you make that leap from, I'm not deceiving them, I'm not lying to them, because that's what we hear a lot in our practices. How did you make that leap in terms of being okay with being in the present and relating to them, even though their brain may be distorting information, their brain may be misperceiving information, they're saying things that are incorrect, that are not accurate? How did you both join their reality and deal with that conflict?
I, as I said earlier, I work half a day and I'm with her, 3 hours a day. And during those 3 hours, the way I get into her reality is we can lay in bed and hold hands and talk with each other. And it's very sweet. we're into this thing now where we go out and get these Hershey miniature candies and in 2-pound bags. So I'll go down and we share a bag a week, you know. So we're laying in bed and I'm giving her chocolate. We're both eating chocolate or crackle or whatever the case may be. And that's how I get into her reality. It's a sweet spot for me. It's where I'm able to connect at a pretty intimate level. So that's how I managed to get into her reality.
Frank, you should try a 5-pound chocolate bar and see how she reacts.
She'd eat the whole damn thing, I'll tell you.
For me, my mindset is what will make her happy. That's the most important thing. And I learned that I don't have to be right. The early part of her disease, we were going to a restaurant. She said, "Oh, the restaurant, you have to take a right." Well, it was a left. So what did I do? I took 3 lefts and we got to the restaurant.
That's cute.
The other thing is, and I do this, you know, each week, because I try to see her 3 or 4 times a week, maybe more. I'll say, "Oh, I'm going to be back tomorrow." Well, she doesn't know what tomorrow is.
Yeah.
And so when I come back, maybe it's 2 days later, she's just as happy to see me. And she doesn't have the angst or the stress that goes with me leaving. So that's an example of, one to quote, the little white lies that I say every week.
So let me play devil's advocate. What about, how would you respond if you've been there and you come the next day and they say, "Where have you been? You don't come and visit me." Because a lot of them don't remember you'd been there all day. I mean, I have a client who stays every day and he went out for 5 minutes to go to the bathroom. He came back in and his wife's like, "Don't you love me anymore? You never come and visit me." So how would you both deal with that if you were confronted with that?
For me, I would say, "Oh, yes, I was here for a few minutes yesterday," and leave it at that.
Frank?
I would do the same. I would do the same thing. But Judy's still, you know, I'm there every day for 3 hours. She's gone to the point where if I don't show, she's got the caregiver calling me to say, "Where the hell are you?" You know? So she's kind of, I guess she's trained to, you know, because I'm there every day.
She loves you.
Yeah.
She loves me. Yeah.
Routines are important. She's falling right into that.
I'm gonna turn it over to our 4 wonderful women here to ask any additional questions they have, and then we're gonna jump into some questions that were submitted at registration. But before we do that, I think we should take a vote. Frank, you can't vote. Who thinks Frank should go to Hawaii? Frank?
Can I go with them?
Let's go, Lionel.
There you
You and me,
go.
buddy.
There. Then Frank, that might encourage Frank to go.
Melissa,
Response.
Monica, Lisa, do you have any more questions you want to ask before we launch into some questions that were submitted at registration?
I think one I have is, you know, I've had brought up to me before is, how do I do things for them when it comes to their regimen, the routine, the girly things? You know, because Frank, I'm sure you're not putting on lipstick or putting a curling iron in your hair. So how did you guys adapt to that to make sure that those things that your, you know, wife valued having done, how did you meet those needs?
That's a loaded, that's a big question. A lot, you know, we've got this thing, this routine when she gets up from her nap every day, we just into this routine where I go get a mirror, she combs her hair, 'puts her lipstick on, and, you know, we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. And then we go to bed. And then we go to sleep. 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 And then we go to sleep you know, she's got this beautiful, and Lisa can attest to this, she's got this beautiful smile. And so I say, okay, give me that smile. And it's the same smile that I fell in love with 13 years ago, you know? So that's a routine we've started, and we just do every day. And it brings me joy, and it brings her joy.
I guess I have a question off of that, and seeing if it, and I know sometimes it's so hard when you're present, like your present moments, but when in the early stages, when they're in these early stages, I think that's where so many of these challenges exist. Sometimes we say the early stages are actually the hardest because it's the change of routine, change of relationship, reminders, all of that stuff. Like at that stage where, how did you, again, sort of do some of that self-care that Melissa was talking about? Was it reminders? Was it you just assumed the role to help? Was it you noticed she wouldn't have her necklace on and you say, oh, here, honey, let me put that on for you? Or like, what was that again, I think that's a big piece of where so many people get stuck. Like once you're in it, you start riding the waves. But at the beginning, you're just trying to get up on the board. And you're just like, how do I even do this? So it's like, how do they get those early stages? I know, like for both of you, it's, you're into the progression of this disease, but what was it like for you then with some of the adaptation of the roles?
And Frank, I just want to remind you, I remember Judy, because Judy was a Spitfire. She is, and
She still is.
She is, and so denial was a huge part of the early stages.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the uphill. You want to share a little bit about that? Because that's really important when your spouse is in complete denial.
Yeah, that was tough.
Limited amount of time, but
that was very difficult for me. Very, very difficult, because she'd fight. And she still does to a certain extent. She still fights a little bit, but I've learned to go with it now, as opposed to fighting it at the beginning,
But what was it like in that time? Can you remember?
Oh, I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do, how to do it. I kind of learned by doing. This is that's the way this has progressed with me. What works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, you had the full shebang of driving, the driving thing, the car, you had the full spectrum of challenges, right?
Right, yeah. And like with the car, she'd say, I'd say, I'm gonna take the car away. No, you're not gonna take the car away. So she'd call from somewhere in Pasadena and say, I'm lost, and I'd say, okay, go down this street, go down, that kind of thing. And I got her home, and I finally got to the point where I had to take away the car. So
Lionel, anything to add for that? And
Well, just one idea, which is the support group in the beginning was so important, because they would show me what they were going through in the next steps of Alzheimer's. And I listened very carefully to them. And of course, now I'm at the other end of the support group, right? Where they're learning about some of the things that I've done to be able to get to me where I am today.
And Lionel, who did you lean on when you needed to learn those new skills?
Well, I leaned on the Alzheimer's support group, as I said, but fairly early on, well, I wouldn't say fairly early, but maybe 2 or 3 years in, I found the psychologist that was so important to me, because when I felt in denial, she would create some reality. And when I felt that I really understood, she would then say, well, let me tell you what happened with my mom. And so there was always that balancing act that I was fortunate to have, and I still have, to help me through the ups and downs, because the journey is not a straight line. And our journey is not a straight line. For me, I think our journey has more ups and downs than my wife has. Because my wife gets to a certain stage and she feels comfortable in the stage. Well, for me, this journey, I can never feel comfortable in. I can enjoy my life as best I can from day to day.
Thank you. And I think you shared an important piece. Having a psychologist is like an oxygen mask for caregivers. It's something so useful that you can have, and not to be afraid to reach out for that professional support outside of even the support group, because sometimes you need both. So thank you for sharing that.
There's no book
No.
on this. There's really no book. And I love what Monica said, you know, you're barely on the surfboard trying to catch a wave. And when you're in the middle of it, you know, the one you're caring for that has this horrible disease is the one with the life jacket on and surfing, you know, safari.
Yeah.
And you're the one that's, you know, wait for me, because there's no path.
Yeah.
There's no path. I have a question here, which I'm going to ask to Frank and Lionel, and then also ask to Monica and Melissa, Lisa, and Tami. And that is, should I purge my wife's wardrobe to make choices easier?
Yes.
Any experience with that, Lionel, when your wife was at home and she would go into her closet? Would you recommend to this person taking some of those clothes out to make the choices simpler?
Absolutely. Well, my background is I'm a shopaholic. So I bought a lot of the dresses in her wardrobe. And yes, the choice by taking it down to 2 items will make her life easier. And so I found pretty quickly I needed to do that. Once I gave her a whole bunch of choices, it just frustrated her.
And do you have anything to add to that, Frank? Making choices
Yeah.
simpler, like one shade of lipstick, you know, not 3
Yeah,
or
she's got her Maybelline 680. That's the standard fare, you know, and I'm the supplier. So I get that for her, and it brings me joy. It brings her joy to put it on every day. And it's amazing to me, you know, how you can still gets the lipstick on and it's all straight and perfect, you know. The other thing about the clothes is it's, you know, her clothes are limited. I haven't, you know, thrown all her clothes away. Some of them are still packed, but you know, she'll say, I need a new dress, or I needed this, or I need that. And Amazon's been very, very good to me. I get what she needs. And you know, some of the stuff I get, you know, she'll say she needs something, I'll buy it, and she'll never wear it. So, you know, that's kind of thing. But you know, it's the joy of getting her something, the joy of getting her a new dress or some new pants or something. You know, what the hell?
Well,
Go ahead. I'll just add one other thing, which is a little off topic. But my wife, when she started, weighed 105 to 110. She now weighs 135. And so I had to get, and I'm not quite there yet because I still ask what her weight is. I had to get to some acceptance that this disease also affects the physical. That her, you know, mentally, she cannot determine that she's had enough to eat. And also the body doesn't get rid of the fluids as quickly as it used to. So that's what I'm going through. It's semi-related to wardrobe.
I can relate to that too. She's put on some weights, and she's been in memory care. She loves to eat.
Chocolate.
She loves the chocolate, man. 2
great.
pounds a week. What the
Keep
hell?
giving chocolate. I think that's great. And the one last question here, it's interesting. Monica, Lisa, Tammy, and Lisa thought that you could interpret this so many ways. So I'm just going to throw it out there. We have about 8 minutes left. Is it bad? So Frank and Lionel, is it bad to ask support from other or older women in your neighbor or your neighbors? Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I live in
Lisa?
an assisted living situation where there's a lot of old people and a lot of varying diseases and so on and so forth. And I'm in the memory care unit. So I'm not afraid to ask anybody for help. Not at all. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in this place.
Yeah.
That goes untapped. So I'm kind of a social butterfly. So I sit down and talk with people about this sort of thing most every day, and they're helpful.
Lionel, any thoughts on that? I was thinking about Mrs. Kravitz making a souffle for you next door, but any thoughts on support from neighbors?
I tend not to seek that support. But if it comes to me, I will certainly accept it. There is a wonderful woman that wants to be with my wife and understands Alzheimer's and will go down with me to meet her. So I do accept things like that. But I'm still kind of a very inward type of person, even though I do have a lot of friends. So that's my answer to that.
You also said for everybody should say yes when you're invited out or when you're an offer to support. And I love that. Say yes, because we all want to be the one that can do it all, and just say yes.
And the second part of that is you have to find a reason to say no.
Mm-hmm.
I try to live by that. And I happen to be very busy these days.
Any last thoughts, Melissa, Tammy, Lisa, Monica, before we go?
I just want to also just say, realizing too, I know that again, today we have 2 men who are caring for their wives, but also realizing again, as I mentioned earlier, the dynamics of being a male caregiver, and you could be a man caring for your wife or caring for your mom, excuse me, and how that brings in different relationships as well. Like if we're talking about bathing, what's it's going to be like the first time you bathe your mom? Is that something you even feel comfortable with? Women will often take over more of the caregiving role, for bathing, it's, typically not as much of an issue, but for a man, maybe doing that for his mom could be a real challenge. And also understanding what your own limitations are and that it's okay that you don't have to do it all. Again, outsource. Realizing self-care is also realizing your own limitations and being okay with that. So just again, the world of being a male caregiver takes on lots of different faces, and all depends upon what your relationship is with the person you're caring for anyways.
Monica, I think to piggyback off of that, please also know when you're in that role, we don't know what your relationship was like in the past. And that can play a major role in how you get support and what you do. You could be a son and your father and you did not have a good relationship, and there could have been, abuse or anything else that happened. And it's okay to say, you know what, I'm going to push this off on other people and I'll be there because I love my dad, but I can't do this because there's some other stuff going on, and that's okay. Don't ever be afraid to hand that stuff off. No one is obligated to do all of this all the time or to do it in any particular way, because we don't know your trauma and your backstory. And that's something very important to us as caregivers, is to respect that journey. I've taught plenty of CNAs on the floor. This family member never visits. And I said, you never judge someone because you don't know why. So you just love the person that you're taking care of at that community and don't worry about the other piece of it.
and even if it is even if it's your partner,
Yeah.
Even if it is your partner, like your married partner, you've been married for 40 years. What if you don't really like each other anymore?
Yeah.
Be honest, like that happens, right? If you're not always like madly in love 50 years in,
Yeah.
you're just there, but realizing though that your journey is your journey.
Mhm.
And as we compare so much in our lives, it's like, oh, wow, you know, Frank does this with his wife and they eat chocolate together and that really seems beautiful and I should be doing that for you. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, understand that the key is just the nurturing and the self-care and being kind to yourself. And first and foremost, I think all of us will agree is education.
Mhm.
Educating yourself on the disease, on the, you know, resources that you have around you.
Amen.
We all have to go at our own cadence and find our own way with the help of others. It is education, it is gaining knowledge, but it is a journey where no two are alike.
Tami?
And it is a learning by doing.
Yeah,
Dementia is learning by doing. Don't criticize yourself. Don't judge yourself. Instead, be open-minded. Say, what can I learn from this? Rather than thinking you did something wrong, rather than beat yourself up. It is a learning by doing. Give yourself permission to learn. And I will close with, I would like to thank everybody for the love, the care, and the support that you do provide day in and day out. And be as kind and gentle and nurturing to yourself as you are with the people you take care of. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Susan?
Thank you. And I'm just going to close with something from Karen. Karen said two things. She said she thinks Frank should go to Hawaii. And Karen also said, Lionel and Frank, thank you so much for sharing your very heartfelt and personal journeys. So I'm going to end with that and thank everyone for joining us and to share the webinar with friends and family. It's so helpful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
God
you.
Thank you,
bless.
Frank. Thank you, Lionel.
Thank you.